first and foremost, I'm going with the Kiwis, just because I'm biased. But then if the Kiwis don't make the podium, I think Vincent Louise, he's probably the favourite. And, there's too many, I can't name them. Well, after watching the races so far this year, a breakaway looks predictable. So the fast swimmers have a good shot. And then Flora Duffy, I think she's the favourite still. Well, I mean, this year it's been a year of wildcards, hasn't it? With all the first-time podiums with Alex Yee and Maya Kingma and Leeds. So, anything can happen at this Olympics, especially with with all the travel bubbles and the interesting scenario that's going to happen being on the ground in Tokyo too. So I think anything can happen. The Kiwis are definitely going for gold, so I'll be cheering for them. And then I think it's just going to be really close between all the teams, really. I'm just going to say good luck to all the athletes heading to Tokyo, and stay safe, but have fun. Okay, so for the women's race, I think Flora, like with my head and doing it by math, Flora Duffy, Taylor Brown and Spirig. And it all depends on how it goes with the bike and the run, and if the bikers are going to be able to catch up or if they're going to stay away after the swimming. I think it's going to be a really, really fast swim. The girls are going to really put it down, and people like Nicola and Laura Lindemann is going to struggle to get back into the race. So for me, it's a swimmer's game in Tokyo. With a heart, I still really think that Flora Duffy deserves to be on top of the podium. I would love to see Jess Learmont and Maya Kingma as well after her stellar performance in the last couple of races. For the men's race, it's going to be a game of heat, really, same for the women's, but for the men's, even more on the run. So I would go for someone like Taylor Mistrashuk. I think it's going to have a brilliant one. The stuff he proved in Mexico just before, being a really, really fast run in hot conditions. I would also go for Hayden Wild and Alex G. Alex G as the winner, and then Hayden and Taylor. And if I would go with my heart, I would go for 3 Norwegians, 1, 2, 3, like in Yokohama. For the team relay, my bet would be on the British team, the UK, France, and the USA, of course. Yeah, it's going to be hard to miss them out. And I would have gone for Norway as well if they were qualified with my, but they didn't qualify. And I still think that the UK has just really, really shown great performances in the race, so aggressive in the past races. So I'd probably go for them as my favorite. And then France followed by the US.
It's so funny. You mentioned just a different lead in with the pandemic, and it's been hard to track their form. I mean, 12 months ago for the men, I would have said, I think Vincent Louis is a big favourite. I was reading something recently that said he's been battling a bit of a leg injury now though. So it's hard to know who's had the really smooth lead in without injuries, but I'm basing my picks on really recent form. So we had a couple of races recently, one in Leeds, and I just think we're going to see some new names on the podium. Obviously, Alex Yee, he's not really a new name, but he's a superstar. I was going to say a superstar in the making. He's already a superstar. So I think his name will be right in the thick of it. Another young guy from New Zealand, Hayden Wild. I'm always excited to watch him race. I think he's going to be right up there. Christian Blumenfeld, who's a name we've seen for a long time. he had some great form earlier in the season and then didn't have his best result in Leeds, but I read that he's been up at altitude training and he always responds well to that. So I think he's another guy we're going to see there. And Morgan Pearson's a new name as well from the US, who's another one of these guys who just comes in with unbelievable run pedigree. So I think his name could be up the front, but yeah, it's so hard to pick these races. Tyler Misselchuk from Canada, he won the lead-up event in Tokyo, the test event. Loves to race in the heat. He's won his last 2 races, so I think he's another name too. So I think Flora Duffy's a big favourite. Won the Commonwealth Games on the Gold Coast. She's won a couple of ITU World Championships. I think she got a silver medal in the series last year. I just think she's a big race performer. And the British girls, they're just so strong. They're always so strong. But the last decade, I mean, they could field 6 athletes and they only get to pick 3. But, you know, some of the results I've seen, I think Georgia Taylor-Brown's going to be right up there. Vicky Holland obviously had a bronze in Rio. She's going to be in Tokyo, and I think she's a big shout. And Jess Learmonth as well. I think, for me, the British girls and Flora, they're going to... We always see that in the girls' races tends to be a bit of separation in the swim. And those girls who can get off the front, they bike very aggressively as well. We saw it in Leeds with the Dutch girl. I think Maya Kingma, her name is. I think she'll be up there. So the girls race so aggressively, and I think anyone who doesn't get in that front selection after the swim, I think they're probably not going to get a medal. Just to enjoy it, have fun. I mean, I think looked like we were going to miss the Olympics this time around with the pandemic, but I think, you know, as a fan of sport, I'm so glad we get to watch it. And for the athletes who have trained so hard, I would say enjoy it because it'll come and go quickly. And yeah, just make the most of your opportunities.
I think I'll give you a few because I can then blame one's heart, one's head. I think from the heart, I would love Javier Gomez to get a podium spot just because of what happened going into Rio and the disappointment in Beijing and then getting the silver in London. I know that's a long shot, but my heart would love to see him end his Olympic campaign with another medal. I just think he's a one in a generational athlete, and he's just worthy of a medal. I'd love to see Hayden Wilde, the young Kiwi. I have a lot of time for Hayden. He's been a Super League athlete, and I saw him as a young racer about 4 years ago with Jonathan Hall, and I'd never seen a super talent like it, just a racing IQ like it. He just seemed like such an ambitious, young, unaware of his talent style racer, and to see him really evolve has been I love watching that. So I'd love to see him there, and Tyler Misselchuk I think is my favorite to win the event. I think he's a dynamic hot weather racer. He won the test event. He's one of those athletes that seems to be able to prepare very, very well for major events, major championships, though he doesn't have a championship title to his name. And when you look at it outside the Brownlees, I guess, when you look at Olympic history, no championship athlete has ever won it. Like Simon Whitfield, he won the game, he hadn't won anything. Hamish Carter was a perennial silver medalist, never won a world championship, won Athens. Jan Frodeno was a nobody, won Beijing, right? So then you had the Brownlees, right? But, you know, I think the Olympics suits that upcoming athlete. That's why I see Hayden Wilde and Tyler doing great things along with the Norwegians. Now, my head says Tyler Misselchuk, Vincent Louis, and the Norwegians. I know there's the Belgians and Helligans and all those athletes, but I can't escape watching that Tokyo test event and seeing what that front group did in those conditions. And I think those athletes are up the front have actually become better athletes since that Tokyo test event. Now, there's a lot missing from that field, but they did an absolute number on the field. So that's my game, and I've probably forgotten a whole bunch of really, really great Australians and great athletes, but you can't pick everyone for a podium. I'd love Jake to be on there too, because I love Jake, and I love Matty Hauser as well. So it's too hard, but I'll go with that. My heart, Nicola Sperry will win the gold, and she'll retire from triathlon as the greatest to do it. I love Nick. I've known her since she was a junior, live with her. She's the best. I'm just such a huge fan of everything she does, the way she goes about her business, the way she races, and she's hitting form exactly like she did coming into Rio, exactly the same time, and I think she's going to be difficult to dislodge. I think if she's got a chance of winning it, she'll win it. I also think Flora Duffy, just seeing that run she did in Leeds, we always think of Flora as a swim biker, but her run in Leeds was magnificent, like she had the fastest run. So I think she's really, really dialed this race in. She sees this as probably her last golden opportunity at an Olympic Games. So I think she could crowd that. Well, talk at the podium, but any of these athletes could potentially crowd that top step. And on my third athlete will be Maya Kinma. That's I think she's just cruisy and cool. And like I said, sometimes this disruptive Olympic has been quite difficult, but the extra year has given a lot of these younger athletes the ability to get stronger and better. And I think she's such a laid-back athlete. All this hocus pocus that's happening in Tokyo, she's, well, whatever, because I was talking to her about, are you worried about all the testing and all the stuff? So, no, who cares? It's just so that the ability to switch that off is a big positive. And I know she doesn't have many runs on the board. She's only got one WTS event. I know there's a million athletes that people are going, what about the Brits? What about but yeah, they're my three that I tend to really focus on. And my head says Flora, Nicola, and I think Ash Gentle will run herself into a position. I think the group will come together, and Ash is an athlete that trains well at home. She's comfortable at home. She's a bit like Miles Stewart was. They don't travel very well, but when they're home and they come off training blocks at home, they're magnificent. So I think this break would have done Ash a lot of good. I know a lot of people are thinking, she hasn't raced and she's going to be off, but I think she's going to be right there. Everyone's thinking the other ones are Jess Learmouth and obviously GTB, and there's a whole bunch of others, but that's where my head says. This relay is the race I'm most looking forward to, because I think it's new. It's such a dynamic race. I love the really short disciplines and the changing leads. It's exciting racing, and it truly is a reflection of a high performance program working well within a country. You've got to have depth on the women and the men, which is what makes triathlon very, very cool. And and then you've also got to look at the teams, all the countries that have selected teams for the relay. And I draw your attention to the Brits, who are taking Sophie Caldwell across, and they're taking Gordon Benson across. And the relay coming after the individual event, will they swap these athletes out? Because, it's interesting, because Sophie Caldwell, in my opinion, is one of the best relay racers on the planet. She's magnificent. So let's assume that they do. I'm going to say that the French are the ones to beat in the relay. I think everyone agrees. They're built for this style of racing, and Cassandra Beaugrand is exceptional on the female end, and with Leonie Perriel, and Vincent is magnificent, and as is that whole French team is strong. I think they're the ones to dislodge. I think the Brits could do amazing things. I think the Australians, if we've got a real chance of gold, it's in this relay, because Jake Birtwistle is the best finisher of a relay on the planet, and Matt Hauser is the best male relay racer of all time. And on paper, he's the fastest, not of all time, he's the fastest over the discipline. And we have, Ash Gentle, who's a remarkable relay racer, and she's quite happy to be isolated. She's a strong biker. The shorter swim suits her. She's got such a big run to set the men up. It's whether they put Emma or what's the one?
Jazz.
I've got a mind blank. Jazz in as the other relay racer. So I'm not sure there, but I think the Aussies could do really well. But it's between the Brits, the Americans are in there now because they've got a strong team. But who they pick for that relay team will be interesting. But I'm going to go with Australia, Britain, and France. You pick the colours, but I think France is going to crowd that top spot.
enjoy it. Enjoy the entire process. It's been a very, very disruptive couple of years. It'll be something you remember for the rest of your life. Even though it was disruptive, it's still an Olympic Games. You're still representing your country. You're still doing the thing that I think every single, I say to every athlete, think back when you were a kid, what did you want to do? You wanted to go to Olympic Games. You're now fulfilling that dream. So enjoy it. Don't get too caught up in it. And I know the race is very, very important, but just enjoy the fact that you are an Olympian and you're representing your family and your nation. And there's a lot of people that hold a lot of pride in your performances. And I just hope it all goes well for everybody, and the race is magnificent, and you get from it what you're looking for. And have a great day.
Both races are incredibly difficult to call, and so what I think in terms of the medalists is that I am going to go for strong swim bikers, because I think there will be a breakaway. And I say that because of the technical nature of the bike course, and also because of the swim and the number of turns in the swim and the non-wetsuit swim. So that, for me, rules out anybody who's not a fast swimmer. And so it leaves me with my top three are: in third place, I'm going to go for Vincent Luis, because I think he has clearly shown that he can win big races and do well in big races now. And I think he is due an Olympic medal, third time of asking. Silver medal, I think, will be Henry Schumann, which is one up from what he got in Rio. And I think for Schumann, great athlete in the heat, can do well on the big occasion. I think he's a smart athlete. He'll be up there driving leading the swim. And I think there's Henry, Commonwealth Games 2018, Grand Final 2016. He even came fifth in Yokohama. So I know he's suffered some ill health in the last couple of years, but I know he's on his way back. And my number one pick, which may be a little bit of patrioticness as well, but still with my head, not just with my heart, is Johnny Brownlee. So we go bronze, we go silver, and then we go gold for Johnny Brownlee over his 3 Olympics. Now I know that's going to surprise some people. However, I think Johnny has the ability to get it right. There's one last time for him at the Olympics. He said he's going to move on afterwards, and I still think there is that shot. And I also think to do well at Olympic medals, in recent Olympic Games, it's shown that you do need that experience, and he definitely has that. So there's my top 3: Johnny Brownlee for gold, Henry Schumann for silver, and Vincent Luis with the bronze. On to the women. My top 3 are, I'll tell you the order in a second, but the top 3 are Georgia Taylor-Brown, Jessica Learmonth, and Flora Duffy. And I think those 3 women will be in a small enough front pack coming out of the water, and they will have enough power there to drive away from the rest of the field, even if Nicola Spirig is in there and going great guns, as I no doubt she will be. Those 3 will be able to stay away. When it comes down to the run, I think the shake-up will be Jessica Learmonth will get the bronze. Not because she necessarily will run more poorly than anybody else, but I think she will be at the front of the swim, and I think she's going to do a chunk of the work on the bike, because that's in her nature and that's how she knows it's the best chance for a medal. So that's Jessica Learmonth with the bronze. Silver medal, I am going to say Flora Duffy, who many people will say for the gold. I appreciate that. However, Flora's clearly a superb athlete, fabulous on the bike, will be brilliant through the technical sections, a great runner, as she showed when she in Leeds recently. She had a fabulous run. However, I'm going to go for gold medal for Georgia Taylor-Brown, who reigning world champion. And one of the key reasons is I interviewed, I know she hasn't performed much this year through some injury and a little bit of illness as well. However, spoke to her fairly recently for a pre-Olympic chat. She sounds in great spirits, and I always think a happy athlete is going to be a successful athlete when it comes to the Olympic Games. Tremendous triathlete, as we know, and she's my tip for gold. So Taylor-Brown for gold, Duffy for silver, Learmonth for bronze. So on to the mixed relay a few days later. There's two rules for me in the mixed relay for a good relay team and to get yourself a medal. The first one is do not get dropped at any point, which means you cannot have a weak leg. So the teams we're looking at have to have 4 strong triathletes. That is number one. If you have a team with 3 great triathletes and 1 poorer, weaker link, that is enough to put you out of contention, especially with this relay, because this relay is going to be the best relay we have ever seen, with all of the top athletes in, and that's one reason that people should watch it. So we need to look at teams who are consistent. So we're looking at France, we're looking at Great Britain, we're looking at the USA, we're looking at Australia. Now, the other thing that you need for the relay is to have a man who on the anchor leg who can run that final mile or so super fast. So with that in mind, and I know we've got some firepower there with the likes of Jacob Birtwistle, with Vincent Louis, with Alex Yee, with Morgan Pearson, but my 3, and I think the way it's going to shake down, and again, of course, I'm going to be a little bit patriotic about this, I'm going to go 3rd place the USA, with probably Morgan Pearson on the anchor. 2nd place France, and I know France are the big favourites going in and the world champions, how many times, with Vincent Louis. But I think Alex Yee, in the run shape that he is in, and also because if my predictions for the individual race come through, he's going to have a point to prove, is going to run Great Britain to gold. So my top 3 for the relay: Great Britain for gold, silver for France, bronze for the USA.
Well, it's got to be our Canadian Tyler. He's got, that's from the heart. Is you just love to see a Canuck come through. And in saying that, the test event winner, the races that he's put down, the preparation I think that he's put down, and I don't only mean the preparation he's put down, like physically he's done, but all his competitors know that he prepared properly. So that little ingredient in there. So I might even just go from the head and the heart for that one. I will say that I'll also be cheering for Vincent Louis as the favorite. I want to see the favorite win, So if is there a favorite, it's got to be Vincent, and I'd love to see him do it. And then the other little heart one would be Javier, and just cause it's Javier Gomez. So Mario Mola too, but also Javier. So yeah, there's my head and my heart for the men's race. That one's hard. I mean, my heart is definitely, and it's also maybe my head is Flora Duffy. I think you're just going to find a lot of us that raced back in the day, and we saw Flora come through the whole system and go through all the ups and downs and just be class all the time. Flora was just this class, and the way she races, the way she handles herself as a person. I saw a little video the other day with her saying, they said something along the lines of, "What's your goal?" She said, "Oh, I'm going to Olympics to win a medal," and I got goosebumps. So I'm going to go with Flora, and then from the heart, I'm going to go with I'm just going to go with Canadians because you got to wear your flags. So with Joanna and Emily, I just love to see them. The potential's there. This is the Olympics. People are saying it's unpredictable. Anything can happen. Well, yeah, let's make it happen. So there's my head and my heart, Flora Duffy, and then the Canucks. I spoke to Alistair the other day, and Alistair said, "I tell you who could." So I'm going to steal Alistair's pick on that one and say that the dark horse would be Max. I don't know. I do follow along. It's just great to see the level just keep coming up and up and up. It's this, whether it be the Super League races, putting in that type of format, or the veterans of the series, or these new Spanish kids that just keep emerging. So there you go. I think I'll go with the unknown Swiss kid. First of all, it's just so triathlon, isn't it? I mean, it's just triathlon always thinks outside the box. We always keep coming up with new formats and a new look at a new format. So this mixed relay, this didn't just go with relay, but with mixed relay, which is awesome. I love the format. I'm so jealous that I never got to race it, not once. They literally started the year after I finished, and it just looks like all the camaraderie involved, and the sport needed it. The sport was in this kind of play between, is it individual, but we have people racing for other people during these individual races. What is this? And then you brought along the relay. fantastic. Obviously the French. I mean, you can't go much past there. Great Britain. I think, it'll be interesting to see how that race unfolds. I will certainly be glued to the television and watching that too. Again, I'm not to name drop, but I did have the great pleasure of just talking with Jan and Ali and Hamish the other day because of Greg. And Hamish put in a plug for the New Zealand team. So I'm going to put in a plug for the Canadian team and say that our Canadian team, who knows, anything can happen. Let's see how it goes.
Yeah, I love it. Just a couple more things, just because obviously speaking to a champion is pretty special. You spoke before about the goosebumps. What's the goosebumps? Like, what's that Olympic experience for you?
That's a great question. It's funny because after Sydney, I had this tangible, like this actual moment where I wondered if I would get goosebumps anymore. And I had this like fear come over me, like, wait a minute, like I still gonna get those, right? Because that's the best part. And I mean the goosebumps of not only the excitement and anxiousness you experience yourself and have to kind of corral and to express yourself, but also just of watching other people do things. That moment when they hit the game-winning shot, or they just hit the triple sow cow they're trying to do, or whatever it is, and I still got them. So that's the best part. I get it. I still get it in little funny moments. I watched this incredible cricket catch the other day where the woman was gonna go over the six. She caught it out of bounds, chucked it back in bounds, then leapt back in bounds and caught it. And I got goosebumps. And I sent it to my kids. I was like, "You gotta see this. It's amazing." So, for all of the things in sport that are wonderful and amazing, and all the relationships and camaraderie, I still think it comes down to just getting goosebumps.
I love that. And I guess finally, Olympic Games is almost here. What happens in the family household? Like, are you glued to the TV? Are you excited about watching? What happens in your household?
Yeah. That's so funny. Our kids commented the other day they can't wait till the Olympics start, and we were like, oh yes, like good. You're in the like frame of mind of just watching wonderful sport and seeing these stories unfold. So we've got on our big family calendar the men's race, the women's race, the relay. We'll all get together and watch those races together. We did the same thing for Rio, and the kids are excited about it. The kids are excited about traveling. They're excited about all the different sports too. They want to watch the gymnastics. They want to watch the beach volleyball. They want to see the track cycling. So it's great. And the fact that it's a year later, I don't know, maybe it makes it even better. It's just like all the anticipation of it. It's like, oh wow, this didn't happen a year ago. We'll get to do it now. So yeah, we'll be there.
Guys, if I'm picking from the heart, it's obviously Morgan Pearson. Someone I've gotten to know pretty well over the last couple of years, and just been super impressed with, and just really peaking at the right time. I think if these Olympics took place when they were supposed to last year, Morgan could have even been left off the U.S. team, and now he's kind of coming in as among the favorites. Obviously not a lot of experience, racing at the absolute highest level in this kind of high pressure event. But I just feel like he won't let that faze him. I messaged him the other day to see if he's going to the opening ceremonies, and he said no. He's laser focused. It's a business trip. As soon as he gets to Tokyo, it's just all about doing what he needs to do to be ready for the 26th. So yeah, I think if it comes down to the run, if he's there in the top 10 or 15 to start the run, I think he's going to be really tough to beat. And I think that if it does come down to a big finishing kick, with 4 or 5 strong guys, I really feel like he's got that top gear that you need to drop the rest. So yeah, Morgan's definitely the one I'm picking with my heart. If I'm picking with my head, I'm probably going Alex Yee, just based off current form. I think that what he did in Leeds, we haven't seen, pardon my French, we haven't seen an ass kicking like that at the World Triathlon level in quite some time. I mean, that was all the best guys in the world, aside from Vince, were racing, and I mean, it wasn't even fair. So I think that if it does come down to it, you know, like I said, 10 or 15 guys on the run, I think he and Morgan are at a different level. And I just think Alex, man, he's so smooth. He doesn't get tired. And I think that, you know, he's going to take off at a pretty hard clip right out of T2, because he's not going to want to sprint with the guys like Vince, with Christian. You know, he's going to want to get away like he did in Leeds. So yeah, if I'm throwing down a few bucks, I might sprinkle a few on Morgan, but I think Alex is where I'm placing my big bets. As far as a wild card for the men, you know, it's fitting with the name, but I think a lot of people are picking Hayden Wilde from New Zealand. You know, he's so young that it's a big question mark. But with that comes like this just brash style of racing. And you know, you saw it in Leeds, like as soon as Alex went, you know, Morgan tried to go with him, and then Hayden was the other one who was able to keep up with that early pace. And you know, he does have that pure run speed that you need to contend for a medal and even a win. And I just think it's such an unknown because we didn't really see him race much over the last 18 months or so. You know, he was only doing smaller races in New Zealand and Australia, and we didn't get to see him against the best competition. But yeah, I think that he's got that gear that Yi and Pearson have, and can go with him. And you know, there's a very real situation, I think, where those three get away early in the run, and then that's the podium. It's already decided. You know, the guys like Christian and Vince and some you know, the Belgians just, you know, might not have that early pace, and you know, I think that the podium could come down to those three, which you know, 3 first-time Olympians would be pretty cool for the sport, and 3 young guys, you know, who should be around for a while. But yeah, I could be totally wrong. Could be, you know, the veterans. I worry about the bike leg for guys like Alex and Morgan and Hayden. You know, Christian and Vince will really want to push things hard and kind of get away from those guys before they start the run. So, you know, dynamics are going to play a huge part, and I think if it is a pure runner's race, yeah, my heart's going to be with Morgan, my head's going to be with Alex, but I'm going to be keeping my mind on Hayden and worrying about him just because he's just got crazy speed, and he's going to race like a psycho because he's 23 years old, and that's what you do. So yeah, those would be my picks for the men. So yeah, if I'm picking, I mean, she might be the one I'm picking with my head and my heart. You know, I think that she's obviously a fan favorite for a lot of people. You know, she's been such a superstar for so long. Yeah, I think that where she comes out of the water is obviously going to be huge for her. You know, she doesn't want to be too far. If she's in that second group, I think she's okay, and she might have someone like a Nicola Spirit to work with, and they could have an easy time bridging up to that front group. So yeah, I think that she's probably the one. I'll pick her with my heart. I really hope that she's going to win. I think that I'll also, if I'm betting a few dollars, it's probably going Flora's way. She's of the really, really strong cyclists. She's also by far the best runner. My concern with Flora is you have so many super strong cyclists this year that will definitely be swimming faster than her. When you look at like a Taylor Knibb, Jess Learmouth, Maya Kingma, you know, coming on really strong. I think that you'll see those women, maybe even Katie Safaris, if her, you know, if her form is on. See them try to get away from that front group really early in the bike because they'll know that the Flora and Nicola, you know, are one trying to bridge up to that big lead group, and then, you know, the best thing for them would be to try to get away so that Flora's not immediately catching them, and then they're trying to, you know, do the whole bike with her and then try to run away from her because that's not going to work. So I think that for those really strong cyclists, mainly Jess, Taylor, and Maya, you know, the goal should be to get away as soon as possible after T1, and those three in particular, I think, have the power to, you know, maybe put 40-50 seconds on that other group, you know, that might include a Summer Rappaport and you know, some of the other strong runners who might not necessarily have the strength on the bike. So yeah, I think that tactically the women's race becomes really interesting with so many strong cyclists in the field. And that's why, like, part of my head is keeps picking Jess Learmouth because she just really doesn't have that weakness across. She might not be the absolute strongest runner, you know, when you look at her 10K split, but of those women who can get away, you know, if it's Jess, Maya, Taylor, maybe one or two others. I think that, you know, what we've seen from Jess has been pretty impressive. You know, I think if Georgia Taylor Brown happens to be with her, you know, I think is in the lead at T2, I think she immediately becomes a favorite just because of that run speed we've seen. So yeah, with my heart, I'll pick Flora. My head, I'll pick one of the two Brits, Jess if she gets away by herself, or Georgia if you know, she's with that front group. Yeah, I think that the Brits are going to be pretty tough to beat. Man, I'm so excited for the relay. Honestly, like you know, obviously I'm thrilled about the individual races, but I think it's just such a monumental moment for the sport. And it's such a thrilling event that even a lot of people who follow triathlon closely maybe haven't watched a lot of it and really realize, especially at this level, how exciting it's going to be and how hard these teams are pushing. I think that it's really a 3-team race, and that's no offense to the Belgians, the Aussies, or the Kiwis, who I think are going to have strong teams, but I think it's France, Great Britain, and USA, you know, are going to shake out the podium. You know, of course, I'm going to make a bit of a homer pick. I really like the US chances. I really see that the third leg, so the second women's leg, being very decisive. And that I expect we'll see Taylor Knibb for the US and Jess Learmouth for the UK and Cassandra for France. So I really like Taylor and Jess's chances of kind of getting away. That would be a good chance to sort of break the French and get away before you have Vince on the anchor leg. And obviously he's been so strong. So I could see France, I could see the UK and the US getting away in that final women's leg. And then, as much as I like Alex, you know, possibly outrunning Morgan in the individual race, I think that the distances of the sprint relay would really favor Morgan. If it came down to an anchor leg between those two, I think he's a bit stronger on the swim, a bit stronger on the bike, and even a 1K run, like I was saying about his kick, I think if it's a pure 1,000-meter all out, I think that he'll have the fastest 1,000-meter run in the whole field. And even if it comes down to those two for a sprint, I think Morgan can pull it out. That being said, you know, with how good the French have been, it could be, you know, the French soloing away on that final leg.
The women's race, Nicole Sperrig is someone who I think, you know that she's going to be coming in fit and ready. And so I'm really excited to see what she does, especially now that she's a mother again. So we'll be excited to see how she does at the games. And, you know, somebody, I mentioned this for the men's, but somebody for the women's race, I think as well, you know, just having a new face like Taylor Knibb, I think, you know, she performed really well in the event in Tokyo where there were so many things she couldn't control. And she's a new, you know, just newer to this. And I think she doesn't have all these preconceived notions. And I think this year in Tokyo, with it being so different because of COVID, I think the people who can really just embrace anything that happens and don't have to really stick to some strict routines are the ones that are going to be most successful. So I'm excited to see how she's going to do. And Flora Duffy is someone as well that I would predict would have a really good race. I'm going to say USA is going to make it on the podium. The mixed team relay is super exciting, and it's something I will actually be watching closely. It's a really cool event, and I'm so glad that they added that and triathlon gets another medal. And, you know, I was on a mixed team relay a few years ago when we won I guess it's been quite a few years ago now, but we won the world champs. And so I really think they have a strong chance. And I don't think you can ever discount France or Australia either. The Olympic experience to me is something that I would say I still am wrapping my head around. It's something I'm able to do what I love and represent my country while doing that. And that's something that's really special, really unique, something that no one takes for granted. It's extremely difficult to be an Olympian and to become an Olympian. And so everyone there, I think, knows how special it is. And hopefully they'll have a really great time and really be able to soak it all in while there. Good luck to everyone racing. You guys have worked so hard to get to this point, so make sure you have fun and just do what you've trained to do. Good luck.
So predictions for the Olympic Games, right? So I think it's going to be a very exciting Olympic game. So and I'm very much looking forward to it. Of course, if I'm going to back athletes that have performed very well at Super League, of course, right? So I'm going to say Katie Zafiris and Vincent Louis. Although I do think on the women's front that Katie Zafiris, she's had some upsets in recent months, right? I think Flora Duffy has prepared well. I saw a race with a lot of potential in Leeds. I think Flora Duffy is going to be the girl to beat. And I'm silently also rooting for up-and-comers like Maya Kingma or Georgia Taylor-Brown, right? So that's the round for me. But yeah, Katie, I think she deserves it. She works hard and she's a true champion. And on the boys, well, again, backing Super League, Vincent Louis. Although he would even have a tougher battle ahead, right? I think, of course, Christian Blumenfeld is the warrior, right? And he's very sharp. Again, looking at Leeds, Hayden Wild, he had a peaceful preparation down in New Zealand. Didn't have to battle with anything around coronavirus. Very strong race in Leeds also. I spoke to him just before Leeds and I said, I'm just going to have fun. I'm going to smash the bike. And then seeing that even though he smashed the bike, he still had so much reserves for the run. But then my silent hopes is also with the Belgians, of course, right? Unreal Van Riel, Jelle Heens. There's a lot of potential there, right? And for the mixed relay, I'm just going national pride, Belgium all the way, right? I think we have a super strong mixed relay. It's a good team. They're all very strong athletes, but also they glue together as the Belgian hammers. So I'm backing the Belgians for the mixed relay. It's going to be tough, but I think they can do it. So that's my 2 cents.
So for my heart, it's really difficult because I've got so many friends in triathlon, but from my heart, I'm going to say Christian Blumenfeld, Alex Yee, Johnny Brownlee. Yeah, they do. It does change. I'm going to say, even though he hasn't yet, I don't think he's shown all his cards. I think it's going to be Vincent Louis. It's difficult on the men's. Christian Blumenfeld. I'm going to say Alex Yee. Duffy, Jess Learmonth, and an American, which I'm not sure. Can I put them all on the podium? Can I just put all of the women on the podium? From the heart, I still think Flora Duffy. I still think she's going to go. And to be honest, from the heart, I still think Jess Learmonth, because I think they're just amazing triathletes, all-round swim bike runners. Oh, who do I put on again from the heart? There's 2 of them, either Katie Zafiris or Vicky Holland to end her Olympic journey. I think there's going to be a surprise. I think the Belgians are kind of going under the radar a little bit. So I think they're ones to watch. But, I mean, you can't not see, France, USA, Australia and GB. I think they haven't really, you'd put on paper and you'd think that GB should absolutely, be up their podium. But we haven't really been able to do that. So I'm still going to say I think GB will be up there, and I really hope they can, put what's on paper out onto the course.
I guess my sure thing prediction is that Jonas Schomburg is going to go out mega quickly on the run, because he always does that, and then he'll end up about 10th. So that's like a sure thing. I think for the podium spots, obviously my head and my heart say Vincent on the podium. I don't know if he'll win, but I really hope he'll be on the podium. And then I think
probably Alex Yee will be there or thereabouts. And I think Morgan Pearson is looking really good for a podium. And then you can't count out Christian Blumenfeld, because that's 4 guys, I know. So, okay, if I had to pick, then Vincent, Pearson, and Blumenfeld. And then like a wild card maybe on, like, if we could just slip a little Leo Berger on there as well, because he's getting stronger and stronger now. That would be awesome. And then my absolute total sweetheart in the whole of the field is Mehdi Assedik from Morocco, because I know he's like a good friend. He's managed to qualify on his 3rd time of trying for the Olympics, and he's a psychiatrist, and he's got a family, like a wife and a little daughter, Maria. So it's been really tough for him to make it. So I'm so happy he's racing. I know I don't think he'll podium, but yeah, I think he'll really enjoy the experience, and it's important to think about that too. Now I think the women is maybe more open than the men, because we haven't seen like 1 or 2 people being extra strong over and above the others this year, at least not the same as last year. So it's I think it's going to be really interesting. You've got a lot of the young new guns, like Lindeman's coming back in form. Obviously Maya Kingma is just looking awesome this year, and she's a tough nut. Taylor Knibb, again, tough nut, and they're not going to respect the oldies for anything. So I think we could see one of the young guns on the podium. Now, if that could be Cassandra or Leonie as well, that would be awesome. But if I'm using my heart, then I would say, a little slip in there from Cassandra at the end on the run, or Leonie, who have a great run. But probably, if my head would be looking at probably a breakaway with Flora, I would reckon Kingma, maybe Taylor Knibb, Jess Lemont, and hopefully Georgia Taylor-Brown, because I really like her way of racing as well. And then I think podium, I would love Jessica Lemont to win, because she's a tough nut, and we have the same first name. So either Jessica or like Flora Duffy. She's been there for a good few years now, and she's a sweetheart as well. So Flora. Okay, I'm going to put myself there. Flora for the win. Jess Lemont second. And you know what? I think we might just see that wily old coyote of Nicholas Fierig running through the field for her last podium. I think she might, she's looking good. I think she could come through for it. Well, the relay, it can be head or heart, whatever. It's going to be France, of course. It's going to be France. It's going to be France. That's it. And then, second or third, who cares? No, second, you've always got to put some money on the USA, because they've got a really, really strong squad. And I don't know, maybe the Australians, because they always manage to pull out a good relay. They've got strength in depth. So 1 France, 2 USA, 3 Australia. Allez la France!
I think the men's race is we say this every Olympic cycle, but this time around there's no real Alistair Brownlee standing out above everybody else. It's so open. And what we have to consider is we haven't got to see a lot of racing in the last 18 months. We've seen little bits, but we haven't seen a lot. And so it makes the form guide very, very hard to pick. Then we got to add in all the variables. We got the weather, the temperature. It looks like it's going to be raining for the men's race. It's 70% chance of rain. I just looked that up this morning. I was like, wow, okay, that for a technical bike course, that changes things up even again. And so it's very, very difficult. But I will give you 3. And I guess if I had to pick the podium in no particular order, I'm going to put my old mate Javier Gomez on the podium. And the reason I've put him there is I think he's prepared well. He was one of the athletes that packed up from Europe and went to Mexico, which in terms of heat and humidity is just brutal. I think if Tokyo truly delivers a very hot race, it's going to suit a more endurance, longer athlete. I think the young speedsters might struggle a little bit more in those conditions. And he has the weapons across the board. And nobody's won more races than Javier Gomez in the last 20 years. Nobody knows how to win more than that guy. And I think he knows it's his last throw of the dice. This is his last chance to make that Olympic gold, hopefully for him, happen. I think then I have to look at the young British athlete coming up, and that's Alex Yee. I think what we saw in Leeds, that performance was one of the most outstanding performances I've ever seen. And Javier Gomez, who was on the podcast chatting with me after it, said, Greg, he was actually working the bike really hard as well. He's not just a runner. He was towing that second group. He said, he's the real deal. So I think Alex Yee for the British potentially is there. And then there's a number of dark horses that I'd like to throw in the mix. I want to add Vincent Lewis to that mix because I just love Vincent. He's been so great on the show. So I might go those three if I can for the podium. And I think that's a really powerful podium. But then my they're not dark horses because they are big names. I think Jake Birtwistle, I think if he can just stay there, nobody's matching him on the final kilometre. If he's there with 1K to go, stand up Australia, I think, we have the gold medal for sure. His swim, he needs to make sure he's there. And I know he's been working hard on it, but I think the other one, Morgan Pearson from the US, is quite a dark horse. I think Morgan is coming in with no pressure. He's on the up. He just had a third in Tokyo, a second in Leeds. He's on the right trajectory. And I think Morgan, I just saw him at the pool only a couple of days ago here in Boulder. He's relaxed, but he's focused. And I think the US men potentially could have their first Olympic medal. But I hope, deep down, I hope the Australians get it. We haven't had an Australian medal. I think my fourth is the best we've done still, and that's not right. I think Australian men have to step up. So I'm hoping for Jake or Aaron to have a great race. But then, honestly, it's like I said, it's so wide open when we look at the Norwegians with Christian Blumenfeld and Gustav Eden, and then we look at the Belgium athletes. We just have I've left out Mario Mola. It's really, really an open platform. But I do think the elements, I think if it's wet, I think the smaller the groups are going to suit the better swimmer bikers, the Vincent Lewis of the world, potentially with Javier Gomez and Christian Blumenfeld. And then the Alex Yee, Morgan Pearson, Jake Birtwistle, Mario Mola are going to have to work hard on that technical side to try and limit the damage. So yeah, long answer to your question. No, I'm sorry about that, but it's I can't wait. Honestly, I'm incredibly excited about it, and I'm sure I've missed a few names there. I do want to add one more name if I could, and as a dark horse. Well, he's not really a dark horse, but Tyler Mislachuk from Canada. I think the ability to race in the heat, if it's hot enough for him. At the moment, the heat, it looks like it's actually dropped down compared to when they had the trial event 2 years ago. So it'll be interesting. The women's pick, still difficult, but not as broad. I think because of the weather and the likelihood of wet roads, I do think it is going to play to Flora Duffy and then the British women, Jessica Leamont and Georgia Taylor-Brown. For the Americans, I think, they have Katie Zaferis and Taylor Knibb, who had an incredible race. And I've had a lot of conversations with Taylor over the last 18 months. So it was a real thrill to see her make the US team. She's enjoyed the podcast and she's always given me some great feedback. So I've had a bit of involvement with Taylor. So I'd love to see Taylor on the podium. But I do think Flora Duffy for the gold medal, I think if the pack came together, which would surprise me, but I've been surprised many times before, I actually think Nicola Spirig could have a real crack at doing something very, very special. I know that my wife Laura talks to Nicola all the time, and I think she's in phenomenal shape. Not just good shape, I think she's phenomenal. And who else? I'm sure. Oh, Kigma, I think, who won in Leeds, obviously being in that lead group as well, is another podium. But I think for the women, I do think it's more like going to come from that pack of 5, 6, 7 out of the water onto the bike, especially if it's wet. We'll see the medals. Well, I think first and foremost, I think this is the greatest event on the Olympic calendar. I just think I wish it was in my day. It's just such an incredible race because it shows men and women working together over swim, bike and run, the Olympic sports, to basically show who is the fittest and greatest country in the world. And so I've said it all along, if I was a high performance director all along, I would have been planning how to make this happen for my country from a very early start. In saying that, I think it's hard to go past the French. They have two women with Cassandra Beaugrand and Leonie, that's right. I think they're phenomenal, and to have the options that they have with the men. And then you've obviously got Vincent Lewis with his finishing kick and his power across the board. Difficult team to beat.
My podium picks for the men, I'm going to say Alex Yee. I'm going to say Norwegian A, B, or C, not sure. And then I'm going to say Morgan Pearson. And my wild cards are going to be Mario Mola and Vincent Louis. And then for the women, my podium is Duffy, then British A, B, or C, I'm not sure. And then Spierig. And my wild cards will be Joanna Brown and Summer Rappaport. And for the relay, my podium is France, Great Britain, and then Belgium. And my wild cards will be the USA and Australia. For the men, I think I picked that podium because I see the race coming together as a big group. And I guess I just see them as the fastest runners. And I think we never can count a Norwegian. Always one of them will show up. I'm just not sure which one. And as for the women, I think we're going to see a pretty strong group of bikers bike away from a majority of the field. And I think that's why I'm picking Flora to win. And I just don't think we can count Nicola Spierig out. I know she has a gold and a silver, and I'm sure she wants a bronze to complete her collection.
In the women's race, my head says it has to be Flora Duffy. I was a little concerned about her fitness. We hadn't seen her for a while. She came back in Leeds. Not the best swim she's ever had, but that will be a lot different, I think, in Tokyo. The run was phenomenal. I think she had the fastest time by a distance. We know about her biking. So for me, it's going to be Bermuda's first ever Olympic gold medal in any sport. In the women's race, my heart says it has to be Nicola Spierig. What an achievement it would be if she was to come home with a third Olympic medal. Utterly unparalleled. How does she fit it all in? Mother of three, she runs a foundation, she's a lawyer, and she still has time to turn up and beat the youngsters. She's 39 years young. What a story if she took gold. In the men's race, my head says simply Alex Yee. Now, you can't base an Olympic prediction on just one race, but how good was the British youngster in Leeds? His run was off the scale. He swims much better than most people think. He's only going to be 15, 20 seconds behind. He'll be in a bike pack with people like Blumenfeld potentially and Stornes and others. And if he is anywhere close when they get off the bikes, no one at all is going to relish taking him on over 10,000 meters. I don't care if you're Vincent Louis or Mario Mola or anyone else. I think Yee has a great shot to win. In the men's race, my heart says Christian Blumenfeld. And just because I love the way this guy races. He doesn't miss an event. He's in everything. Sprints, Olympic distance, 70.3. He'd turn up for your sister's sports day in the egg and spoon race if he was allowed to. And I would just love it if he could take gold. I think it would be great for the sport. He's got so much enthusiasm, and it will not be for the want of trying if he's not first across that line.
think it's a pretty open field. You know, there's been some good performances from a lot of people over the last 18 months. So, I mean, I guess for me, it's hard to look past Vincent. He's, you know, all round, you know, very strong. So I'd pick him as a winner. The podium behind that, I mean, it's a hard one. There's some Belgium athletes, a fast Kiwi athlete, you know, some of the other French boys that are really fast, and you know, depending on how the race goes, you know, I'm probably picking a podium to be Vincent, Tyler, and one other. I'm going to go with Christian. I think for me, it's hard to go past Georgia. Georgia or Flora for me is for the win, first or second, and then after that, I'm gonna go with Summer Rappaport. The relay, I'm gonna go with France, Great Britain, and Germany.
Hello everyone. My prediction to the Olympic Games in Tokyo is going to be, it's not as easy as maybe, but I need to start over again. I'm so sorry, Alaya. Okay. So this prediction for the Tokyo Olympic Games is a tough one. There's so many great athletes out there, and but if I have to choose a few, and let's go with the women's race first. Of course, I will see Flora Duffy up there, Nicola Spirig, the GB girls with Vicky Holland, Georgia Brown, and Jessica is going to be up in the front. And then, of course, we have the US girls with Taylor and Summer and Katie. So I think those are the 8 that I will see in the top. And I do think Great Britain will be the one who's standing up in the top this time. With the men's race, of course, it's going to be the Spaniards with Mario Mola and Javier Gomez, France with Louis Vincent. But my favorites are, of course, the Norwegians with Christian and Gustav and Kasper. It's going to be very exciting to see what they can do in Tokyo with all the preparation they have done. My wild cards is, of course, Alex G, and Brownlee have great experience, so he will also be up there. And my predictions, if I choose, is going to be Norwegians. It's going to win. The mixed relay is even harder, I think, to predict because there's so many great teams out there, and but I do think if I pick 4 national teams, it's going to be Australia, US, France, and Great Britain.
Well, thank you so much for asking me for my thoughts on all of this stuff. I hate doing these kind of predictions because usually athletes get very upset with me when I don't pick them. So I usually like to say what I think is likely to happen or what would make the most sense and what people are going to try and do. So maybe I'll start with the ladies, and I think it's going to be very interesting to see if we can get a breakaway group. I think there's some athletes who are in this race who if they're going to medal, they need to be part of a breakaway. They need to get clear. And then you have other athletes who want everything to stay together, and that is going to be their best chance. And it is just so competitive in both the men's and the women's races. And I think, there's a very good chance we could see 6 to 8 women out in front trying to set up a breakaway. So the likes of Flora Duffy and Taylor Knibb, Maya Kingma, Jess Learmouth, actually all 3 of the British women could be out there. Lopes, Summer Rappaport. So I think you could get that group of about 8 people out in front, and then in theory everyone else will either try and get just ahead or be part of the Nicola Spirig train that is going to be out and flying towards the front. And so it'll all come down to whether or not that group, either 6 to 8, or if it breaks down to 3 or 4, can stay clear, or if Nicola and some of the other strong cyclists bring everyone up. Flora Duffy, I think, is the way I hear she's been running, and the way her training has been going the last little bit, she could win this race any which way. So if the group stays clear, obviously great chance for her. If everyone gets together, and people have had to work hard on the bike to get there, I think she's in a fantastic position as well. Flora, I think, is in a great position. Maya and Taylor, I really think they need that group to stay clear and have a big gap if they're going to be able to end up medaling. And then, for all 3 of the, so Georgia, Vicky, and Jess Learmonth, again, sort of either way for them, but much better if they can have that breakaway and stay clear. And if they can work together really well on the bike, and manage to get rid of Flora and Taylor, then we could see a British sweep as well. So I'm hedging my bets there. And if it all stays together, I think somebody like Ashley Gentle would be a great person, great athlete to be able to run her way to the front. Nicola Spirig, I think she brings that group and then just keeps everyone hammering. She will fit. She just won a big race, or not big race. She just won a race in Switzerland or Austria last weekend and just showed how strong she is. So, so there's my head talking about everything and not giving you an answer. And if you were going by my heart, of course, as a Canadian, it will be either Amelie Kretz or Joanna Brown on the top of the podium, and the other one next to them. So there you go. There's my non-answer in terms of predicting, giving you direct predictions. For the men's race, so in the same way that I think Flora Duffy has the opportunity to win no matter how this race goes, that's Vincent Louis. Vincent Louis, like one of the fastest swimmers. He's got so much stronger on the bike over the last year, and we all know how amazing he is on the run. So for him, he's going into this. Yeah, throw it to me however you want, guys. Like, you want it to be fast right from the gun, I'm up for that. You want to stay together as a group on the bike, I'm up for that. You want to make it fast all the way through the bike and the run, I love that too. So Vincent Louis, I think everyone's got to try and figure out how they can somehow, make life difficult or make him uncomfortable. I think that's going to be one of the things everyone's going to be thinking of. And I think it's going to be really hard for a group of guys to break away. So I think, traditionally in the Olympics, you got about 40% of the field up near the front. You got 40% of the field in the chase pack, and then the other 20% are kind of stragglers. And I think we're going to see something very similar to that. I think we could see a big group of about 20 people out in front and pushing the pace. So, like you've got Henry Schumann, never know if I'm doing that one right, likely to be up near the front on the swim. Vincent Louis, but you've got people like Tyler Mislachuk, who's been swimming so well, won the test event. So there's where I get to put my heart and my head into the same prediction. So I think if we get that group of 20, I think without Alistair Brownlee in the field, so Alistair is a great general, and as much as Johnny Brownlee is so strong and a great swimmer and good on the bike, I think without having Alistair there to sort of coordinate a smaller breakaway group, I think it's going to be really hard for the likes of Johnny Brownlee to get clear in that smaller group. So, then you'll have the Norwegians. So you've got Christian and Gustav and Kasper all flying up. They'll be just a little bit behind after the swim and then flying up to join that group, keeping the pace really hard and fast. So what do I think is going to happen? I think we're going to have a big group hit transition at the same time, hitting T2, and then it's going to turn into a foot race. And in the same way that everyone's kind of trying to make Vincent Louis' life difficult in this race, everyone on that run is going to be worried about Alex Yee and what he is going to do. So he's going to be the person everyone is looking at on that run. But then, you've got Tyler Mislachuk. I think he's got, Matt Sharp, who's going to make sure that he's in a great position coming into that transition. And so I think we're going to see a really exciting race for that run. And, the likes of Vincent Louis, Tyler Mislachuk, Alex Yee, Morgan Pearson just had an amazing 5K run on July 4th. So he's going to be up in that run as well. And then Jake Birtwistle. So there you go. There's my non-prediction on the men front as well. And my heart, obviously, pulling hard as a Canadian for Tyler Mislachuk to do his magic again, like he did in Tokyo and like he did in Mexico a few weeks ago. The relay, oh my goodness, this is going to be a riot. I think on paper, you just absolutely cannot bet against the French. They are so strong. Obviously, is it 3 world championships they've won in a row? So they're going to be in there. You've got, I don't know how to call this one. So you've got the French, you've got the British with the insanely strong team as well. The Americans, they had a tough enough time picking their Olympic team for the individual races. I have no idea how they're going to do it for the relay as well. They're so strong with all of their athletes. So I think the relay is going to be really tough. You're going to end up with 5 teams, and I think once again I got to put my heart in there. I think Canada in that sort of 5th or 6th position if they can stay in the hunt, which I totally believe they can do. So it'll come down to that final leg. Yeesh. Do you want to bet against Vincent Louis? I sure as heck don't. But do I want to bet against the British team? I don't know who you put in as anchor. Johnny Brownlee with his great Olympic history, Alex Yee with his amazing run. Tough one there. You and I have both seen Jacob Birtwistle over the last 500 meters of a relay. I don't know if you were there in Hamburg when he had that amazing run. I don't know who to call on that one, but I will say that here's one thing I'm going to guarantee. It's going to be exciting, and it's going to be close, and it's going to come down to the last kilometer of the run.
My prediction with my head for the women's race is Flora Duffy. She's the most consistent and well-rounded, all-round triathlete we've seen in the women's race ever, I think. And she's had a few years where we've had a few injuries, so I'm so excited to see Flora get to a start list, happy, healthy, and raring to go. I think she's definitely one of the most all-round athletes who, whatever the race scenario, she can come out on top. My prediction for the men's race with my head is maybe predictable, but Vincent Luis, he's been so consistent in the racing that we've seen over the last few years. And although he did miss leads with maybe a little problem, I think that will have just given him more time to focus and be ready. He's got such a good swim. He's always going to be in the best position out the swim. I believe he's going to be able to deal with anything that happens on the bike, and has proven himself to be one of the fastest runners. So yeah, he is my prediction for my head. My prediction for the women's race with my heart, I'm going to be sneaky as a Brit who's been to the Olympics, is all three Brits, but different reasons for all of them. Jess Learmonth, we've seen her struggle back from injury over the last sort of 6 months and then come up with an amazing performance in Leeds. And I do think Jess is someone who's really changed the women's racing over the last 4 years. In this 4-year cycle, her strength at the front of the swim has completely changed the dynamic of the racing. Georgia, we've not seen her race, 2020 world champion, we've not seen her race, so I just want to send her lots of luck and good vibes. And Vicky Holland, we haven't seen much of her, but we know like she's got that killer run. I mean, is it going to come out? We know she's a top performer on that chosen day, so she could be someone that really brings it out the bag. So I'm cheating a little bit there for the women's. And my prediction for the men's race with my heart is I'm going to go with Alex Yee. I think he showed in Leeds that he can win on the big stage, and we know his run is amazing. And we saw how aggressive, how he just made his mark on that race in Leeds. And I think we're going to see the same Alex Yee in Tokyo as well. If it comes down to a run, I just don't think you can write out Alex. My prediction with my head for the mixed relay is France. They've won so many of the last World Championships. They've got such a versatile team. All of their athletes really well-rounded, very consistent. So yeah, it's got to be France for the head. My prediction with my heart for the mixed relay team is the Belgians. I kind of think they've got a really strong all-round team. I love the way they have a team name. I love their team spirit. I kind of just really enjoy watching them race and just take the race on. So they're my prediction with my heart.
The men's race, you'd have to say the form going in, you can't really go past Morgan Pearson, a third in Yokohama, second in Leeds, two very different courses. Obviously, the strength there in his form. So you'd have to say Morgan Pearson would be on there. Second and third, well, there's so many athletes that could be up there. It depends on the type of race, if it's, it's a pack on the bike. You'd have to say Norwegians are up there with a chance. The guys that placed in the trial event, Tyler Mislachuk, but he's actually racing in LA this weekend, and I think it's a little bit close. The jet lag's quite horrendous. And you'd also have to say someone like a Johnny Brownlee, not great in the heat, but great at the Olympics. The women's race, I think I liked the way Flora raced Leeds. Although she wasn't out on the front with the swim, I think that was a sort of unusual swim for her. I liked the way she ran. I thought she was really solid in her run performance. So my favourite is Flora Duffy going into the women's. You'd have to say the British girls are going to be tough to beat. Georgia Taylor Brown, we haven't seen her race. There was talk of injuries. I'm not sure how true they were. And Maya Kingma obviously got the form. I'm not sure if her run is quite as sharp as it needs to be. The last 3 World Championships have been won by France. You can't go past France. Australia has always medalled at the World Championships, except for last year when they weren't there. It's going to be very hard to beat the English, the French and the Americans. Australia does rate its chances, and I just hope that Australians, individuals, finish their races and we don't go in with fresh legs. There's a lot of talk about countries doing that, but I think it's going to be out of those 4 countries. mean, anything can happen in an Olympic final, and quite often it's the favourites that don't do well because of the pressure, and it's such an odd Olympics as well. Getting there, every country's got different approaches. So, you know, being an Australian, I'd like to see Jake Birtwistle be up there. He is someone who, through the lockdown, I think his training was a little bit unbroken, and he's had a very good solid block since Leeds of training, and he needs that consistency. So I think Jake's form will be better than what we've seen. And in the women, you know, someone like an Ashley Gentle, if we've got a Nicola Spierig that's doing well on the bike, you've got someone that Ashley Gentle might be up there in that group. And if it comes down to a run, there's always that option. And I think someone who's also very much under the radar, and I'm being very Australian biased here, is Emma Jeffcoat. She's been doing some incredibly fast runs through our summer in Australia. Hasn't raced, so the world doesn't know about it. So she's going to be a powerful athlete that may be useful in the individual event, but very useful in the relay.
I'm obviously going to show my nationality bias here, and I would of course love Australia to win. That's always, you know, that's where I guess, you know, come an Olympics, you can't ever deter from where you're from and the country you've raced for. So for me, our three Aussie men, you know, I'd love to see them work together, work as a team, and to have, you know, obviously it'd be amazing, best case scenario to ever have is three Australian men on the podium. But I think, you know, if we can work towards Jake having an unreal performance, you know, that's where I'd love to see that Aaron and Matt can help him, and also believe that Matt Hauser is you know, someone I'd love to see up there too, a young gun, and competed on the world stage a bit now and been with us for the Commonwealth Games. So yeah, that's where it really gets to me, and where I'd love to see our men. Look, Ash Gentle has been someone that, you know, has been around in the sport from such a young girl, from Surfers Tri Club days, which was, I trained with Jenny, and so she sort of always had a little bit of a special place for me. You know, watch her as an up and coming junior, and you know, really now progress onto the professional ranks, and to be you know, competing for us in Tokyo at the Olympics is something that it just, yeah, it's so sweet in a way to see these athletes come from where they were as juniors, and you know, how people follow in the footsteps of what our Olympics have paved the way for, and especially in our country, and having such a strong results in the women's field, particularly with Loretta setting the stage in Sydney, was something that was so vital to my career. So I hope that for someone like Ash especially, that, you know, that's something that hopefully the history of our sport can provide her too, and that we've got Emma as well, and the young Jazz Hedgeland, which, you know, obviously it's been hard for me to see these athletes, but I'm super excited to see another really young up and comer. So again, you know, I'm never going to deter far from that green and gold that I'd love to see up on those top places. I think for me, the young Alex Yee from Great Britain, obviously he's, I feel like he's a small guy as well. I feel like the heat could play in his favour. He's certainly in form. And I think, I honestly believe that when you've had the history that nation has had with their men, that's something that can help you raise the bar within yourself. And I think for me, he's sort of like my, I guess, like, you wouldn't say he's a wild card or a dark horse, because we know what he's capable of, but I feel like that's someone that could really shine in Tokyo. I think you've still got the likes of Christian Blumenfeld. You can never ever dismiss that guy. He's going to show up, and he's going to be there and finish pretty much live or die, and I love his attitude to racing. And then you've got still some people, you know, like you've still got the Spaniards. You've got Mario and Javier, and sure, maybe they've been quiet, but I feel like they've also know the anticipation and the pressure of Olympic Games. And I think sometimes those sorts of things, you know, when people haven't experienced it, could, you know, fall in their hands and basically, still help elevate them, and they know how to elevate for big races. So I also have to say, like, just living up the street, Vincent Louis is someone we see nearly every day, and Jan sees, and it's nice when you get to know people, and he's a phenomenal athlete. So, it's a bit of a mixed bag for me in that sense. So I think, I think there's just so many factors that go into this Olympics, but in that respect, it's a really, really going to make it a really exciting race.
And on to the women's, obviously, we definitely want to try, and see Ash on that podium. But obviously thinking with everything else that's happened externally around, the strange year it's been, who would you predict from the mind on the women's race?
I think from the mind and the tactical point of view of the way I see the British women working, and then add Flora Duffy into that mix, I think that's a very strong force to be reckoned with. I think they have really, they've utilised the power of those girls as a team, and Flora knows as well that she can utilise those girls without, needing a team per se of her own. I think that's something that's very strong and very forceful. But then you have the likes of like the young Taylor Knibb from the US, who's won on the course and qualified. And again, you can never underestimate someone, young, fresh blood that comes into an Olympics with no expectations. And sometimes that no pressure is something very scary to deal with, in sense of from other competitors' point of views, because they're going in with pretty much no weight on their shoulders. And I think in that respect, again, I think a bit like the men's, it's going to be a really, really exciting race. And I think Ash is definitely capable of being up there with them, the same as Jazz Hedgeland. I also believe that if she can just race like she races with no expectations, take away all the hype, and does what she does, I think these girls are capable of having phenomenal results. Honestly, it gives me goosebumps thinking about it, like going into the village, and it's an experience regardless of what's happening in the world, that you may only ever get once. You have to remember how privileged you are to actually walk into that village as a team member of any team, of any national team that you're there for. And I think the overriding thing is that everybody is going through the same thing. Everybody who goes into a village is, for a start, it's unfamiliar territory. It's not the same as when you show up to your normal races in the world circuits, and you have a lot more flexibility. Everyone's under the same sort of strict guidelines and regulations and bus schedules and timings and this. And then you've now got the impact of COVID on top, and all the extra testing. And I think the only thing I can say is just let it breathe. Let it relax, because everybody's in the same boat. Everybody is dealing with the same thing. And at the end of the day, you're all going to be on the start line having gone through the same issues that everybody has faced to get there. But all you have to do is, when you're on the start line, is remember, if you're fortunate enough to be there, enjoy the experience, because it's incredible, and you may only ever get one shot.
Looking at the Olympics, and this is, of course, for me, being Norwegian, and a very exciting year with a full male troop there, and our first female athlete. So, of course, with my heart, I would, of course, want to repeat of the World Triathlon Series in Bermuda a couple of years back, where we had a triple Norwegian podium on the men's side. That's not too realistic, I think. But I do sincerely hope to see Christian Blumenfeld at the top of the podium. That's in my heart. It's been a long time coming, and I really hope to see him there. Realistically, I think we'll see a massive fight between, especially him and probably our French friend Vincent Louis. And if I go back to my heartfelt feelings, I would also love to see either Mario Mola or Javier Gomez on the podium. And if not Christian on top, one of them, it would be really nice to see them there. On the women's side, even with my heart, I do not see our Norwegian friend Lotte Miller topping the podium. If she makes the podium, it would be amazing. Paris, I've got high hopes for her, but this time around, finishing top 10 for her. With my heart, Nicola Spirig. Just an amazing athlete. If she made it to the podium and top of the podium again, it would be that's triathlon history by far. But also having Flora Duffy here. And I also feel with everything that's been going on, Katie Safaris really deserves a big comeback, and I think she's got it in her to really make it back on top this year. This is first time around. It's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out, and I have no idea who will be on top, but I think on the podium, if I would be surprised if my predictions would be France, Australia, and the US, not necessarily in that order. My guess is that at least 2 of them will be on the podium, most likely 3 of them. But other than that, it's just going to be really exciting to see the sprint relay in the Olympics.
It's the fastest athletes in the world are going to be in Tokyo, and the ITU format is really compelling and is good for people who have just tons and tons and tons of speed. So ultimately it always comes down to the run, and the people who are in that front pack on the bike, which generally means you're a front pack swimmer also. Those guys are going to be the ones fighting for it. But I think it's going to be a tremendous competition, and there's just so much talent coming from all parts of the world right now. It's really exciting and it's really compelling. And I think we're going to be surprised, and we're going to see some new faces. Bringing the team element into triathlon, which has historically been such an individual sport, with people focused on their own achievements and their own journey, to be able to bundle that type of, sort of history and legacy into a team competition, I think is really compelling. And I'm really excited. We've had the World Championship for the team relay at our race in Hamburg for a few years. And it's really awesome to watch. And it's good to see all these people who are historically competing as individuals really coming together and racing as a team for a country. I do. My favorite Olympic memory was during the 2000 Sydney Games. My wife and I were living in Australia at the time, and I had the great fortune to be able to attend the swimming events when the 4x100 relay took place. And I was sitting right behind, 2 rows behind Dawn Fraser, and watched the Australian team, the Michael Klim team, come from behind and beat the Americans, which was disappointing to me as an American. But to be in the building, for such a pivotal event where both the Americans and the Australians performed at such an extraordinary level, and to see, Australia win it, in the last 10 meters was, a real sports highlight for me. All of us at Ironman, our athletes, our team, our volunteers, the people in our host communities are wishing the very, very best to all of the Olympic and Paralympic triathletes. We are fans of the sport, and we care about the sport, and we are looking forward with great expectation to be able to see which men and which women are going to be the best on the day. And we wish everyone well for a safe and compelling Olympic Games.
I'm Barry Siff, and I'm really excited to talk about my personal feelings and predictions for Tokyo 2020. Of course, I'm wearing my ITU or World Triathlon hat so that I can give the broad perspective and not be biased to begin with. But you know what? I'm going to put on my USA hat because my heart is with Katie Zaferes. She has been so misunderstood and aligned over the last couple of months and the last year, and no one is given more of her heart and soul to the sport than Katie. So my prayers are with her to certainly podium and to just have a phenomenal race that she's fully capable of. And of course, on the men's side, Morgan Pearson has, I'm going to say, come out of nowhere, but he's slowly built up to where he's at. And 4 years ago in Rio, when we had the incredible race by Gwen, no one talked about our men. I mean, our men were non-existent, and now they're contenders. And I think Morgan has a definite shot if he can get out of there in the swim and get some help from some friends. And also on the relay, I think Team USA unequivocally will be on the podium. So I have very strong feelings. Okay, now we're going to be objective. I was out on a run this morning, and it's like 90 degrees here at 6 o'clock in the morning. And I'm thinking about this heat, and I'm remembering back to Cozumel, because Cozumel was probably the hottest, most humid race I've personally been at and actually raced that weekend. It was terrible. And we all remember the famous Alistair Brownlee carrying Johnny. It was Henry Schoeman who won that race. And Henry seems to show up at the right times. So Henry's kind of, I hate to call him a dark horse, but I think he's got very strong potential for being there. However, my pick is Christian Blumenfeld. I think Christian, there's no more of a warrior and fighter, and he's proven his success over the last few months. And the Norwegians are just very, very smart. Harken back to Bermuda when they took the whole podium, something that's just so rare. They're a smart organization. They work really, really hard. The only other person I want to mention is Vincent Louis. We just haven't seen him. And I remember in Rio, he had a lot of issues going in. So it wasn't a surprise that what happened there. But if he's 100%, he's going to be there as well. Several dark horses, Mario Mola, Gustav Eden, of course, Alex Yee. But those are my picks on the men's side. The women's side, I don't know how you go against Flora Duffy. I think everybody's saying, Flora, or a lot of people are. And of course, I don't want to join the bandwagon, but it's hard to see past her. If she pushes that bike like she will with Jess Learmonth and maybe Taylor Knibb and Georgia Taylor Brown. I think Katie, if she's on that, it's all about Katie's swim. If Katie can get her swim in and get on that train early, I absolutely believe that podium can easily be Flora, Georgia Taylor Brown, and Katie. The one I want to mention is Summer Rappaport. Summer will be there at the start on the swim, and everybody talks about her biking skills. They have gotten so much better over the last couple of years. And from what I understand, not only has USA Triathlon given her some very, very serious bike support help over the last year, skills handling, she's been playing out on her mountain bike. And so she's got confidence. So those are my picks. I think on the relay, I mentioned USA, but you can't get past France. They've got to be the favorite. They've got to make a mistake somewhere in transition to allow another team to win. But I look at France, I look at the US, and of course Great Britain, with Belgium and Australia as the dark horses. So excited for the races. It's going to be amazing. It's an Olympics like no other. And yeah, go World Triathlon, go USA.
For me, the Olympic experience is really special. I remember clearly watching my first Olympic Games as an 8-year-old in Atlanta, and then staying up in the middle of the night to watch triathlon make its incredible debut in Sydney. And the Olympics has been very much part of my life since then. I was lucky enough to go to 3 Olympic Games and experience an Olympic Games at home, which was the absolute highlight of my career and absolutely fantastic. And so the Olympics to me is it's motivation, it's inspiration, it's community coming together from people all over the world, and of course as an athlete who has spent a lot of my career trying to win them, of course it's about performing and producing special performances on the right day. Say a massive good luck to everyone competing in the Olympic Games in Tokyo. It's a very privileged position to be able to stand on the start line of an Olympic Games. So well done for getting there. I hope you enjoyed the whole experience. It's special that these Olympics are going ahead given everything that the world has been through over the last 18 months. So enjoy it more than ever. Perform to the best of your ability, which I'm sure everyone will, and everyone's been preparing as hard as you can to get that performance, and be proud of yourself for being in the start line and for your achievements.